It started with a bark, sharp, insistent, and strange. Officer Mark Jensen had just returned from a 2-week leave after the passing of his father. Everyone at the precinct welcomed him back with warm smiles and quiet respect, giving him space. But there was one exception, AK-9 named Shadow. The moment Mark stepped into the room, Shadow barked at him, loud, angry, and persistent. Shadow wasn't just any police dog. He was the pride of the K-9 unit, obedient, loyal, incredibly well-trained, and known for his unmatched instincts. He had served with distinction for years and had never once shown aggression toward an officer, let alone one he had worked alongside before. But now, as Mark stood frozen in the hallway, the black German Shepherd was straining against his handler's grip, barking like he had just found a criminal. "Easy, boy, what's gotten into you?" said Officer Linda Reyes, Shadow's handler and Mark's longtime friend. Everyone tried to laugh it off at first. Dogs were sensitive, and maybe Shadow was reacting to Mark's cologne, or maybe he sensed Mark's emotional distress. But even when Mark knelt down cautiously and offered Shadow his hand, the same hand that used to toss him tennis balls during breaks, the dog growled. A low, guttural sound. Eyes locked on Mark like he was a stranger. Or worse. The room grew tense. Mark backed away slowly, trying not to take it personally, but inside, he felt shaken. Shadow's behavior wasn't just unnerving. It felt like an accusation. That night, Mark sat in his car for over an hour in the precinct's parking lot, hands gripping the wheel. He replayed the moment again and again in his head. Shadow's eyes haunted him. It wasn't just fear or confusion in them, it was something deeper. A message. The next day, Shadow did it again. Barked the moment Mark entered the building. This time louder, more desperate. Chief Daniels pulled Mark aside. "Look, we've all been through a lot lately. You just lost your father. You've been carrying weight no one can see. But we can't ignore this. It's not like Shadow to act this way." Mark tried to reason. He's a dog. Maybe he smells something. Maybe I remind him of something bad. But then Shadow did something none of them could explain. When Mark entered the evidence room to retrieve a file for a cold case, Shadow broke free from Reyes, bolted down the hallway, and slammed into the door until it swung open. He lunged at Mark, barking at a duffel bag in the corner. Not attacking, just barking. Fixated. The room fell silent as Reyes grabbed Shadow's collar and pulled him back. "What the hell is going on?" whispered Mark, stepping away from the bag. Reyes approached it carefully, unzipped it, and gasped. Inside were 3 small bags of narcotics, methamphetamines. Not registered in the evidence logs. Everyone in the room stared at each other. That bag wasn't supposed to be there. It wasn't tagged. It had no case number. It had been stashed, deliberately. And it was in a room that only officers had access to. Whispers began. Mark's badge suddenly felt heavier on his chest. He looked at the bag, then at Shadow, who had stopped barking and was now sitting silently, staring at him with those piercing eyes. Like he was saying, "Now do you understand?" An internal investigation was launched. The evidence room was swept. Security footage was reviewed, but the footage from the past month had gaps. 5 hours missing here, a day missing there. Then, something even more devastating. Security logs showed that Mark's badge had been used to access the evidence room during one of the missing timeframes. Mark felt his world spinning. He hadn't been there. He was at home, mourning his father. He'd barely left the house. "I swear to you, I didn't do this," he told Chief Daniels, his voice trembling. "Someone cloned my badge, or what?" Daniels asked quietly. Mark had no answer. He was suspended pending the investigation. His friends stopped calling. Even Reyes wouldn't meet his eyes. Shadow had gone quiet, no longer barking, but now watching Mark with mournful eyes every time they crossed paths, like he pitied him. Mark spiraled. He couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw his father, and Shadow. Then, a week later, Reyes knocked on his door. "I think I know who did it," she said, her face pale. She told him that she'd taken Shadow to the evidence room again. This time, with a hidden camera on his collar. And again, Shadow went to the same corner. Scratched at a hidden panel in the wall behind a shelf. Inside was a small, wireless transmitter, a device used to intercept and clone badge signals. It had fingerprints, not marks. They belonged to Officer Randall Clegg, a veteran cop, just months from retirement. Clean record, trusted by everyone. It turned out Clegg had been running a side operation, stealing small amounts of drugs from evidence, selling them through third parties. He'd known Mark was grieving, distracted, vulnerable. He'd cloned his badge to shift the blame if anything was found. It almost worked, but Shadow knew. He'd smelled the drugs. He'd smelled the guilt. When the truth came out, the precinct was stunned. Clegg confessed under pressure. Mark's name was cleared, but the damage was deep. His faith in the system had fractured. People had doubted him. Friends had disappeared when he needed them most. Everyone apologized. The chief, the department, even Reyes. But Mark didn't blame them. You believed what you saw. And what you saw didn't make sense. But he knew. From the start, he knew. He turned to Shadow and knelt in front of him. I owe you my life, he whispered. Shadow licked his hand. No barking this time, just trust. Mark returned to duty a month later. But he wasn't the same. He was quieter, more watchful. He spent more time with the K-9 unit, especially with Shadow. They started training together. Eventually, Mark became the department's first dual-role officer, both a patrol officer and a K-9 handler. His first partner, Shadow. In the end, it wasn't instinct or aggression that saved Mark. It was loyalty, unshakable, wordless loyalty. Shadow had barked because he couldn't speak. He barked because he knew something no one else did. In a world full of suspicion, betrayal, and silence, one dog had stood up and told the truth the only way he knew how. Sometimes, the loudest voice in the room doesn't come from a person. Sometimes, it comes from a dog who refuses to let you fall.